And we've got to restore habeas corpus because we're not a country that locks people up. We're not charging or encroaching on people's civil liberties. That's the measure of true patriotism, our willingness to live up to our ideals and our values. So let me just close, and we can get to questions by saying this. I am reminded every single day by events or by my wife that I am not a perfect man. And I will not be a perfect president. But I can promise you this, I will always tell you where I stand. I will always tell you what I think. I will be honest with you about the challenges we face. I will listen to you even when we disagree. And most importantly, I want to open up our government back to the American people so that our democracy can work the way it's supposed to work. In other words, I'm not just asking you to trust in my ability to lead this country. I'm confident about that. I'm also asking you to trust in your own ability to make a difference. And I hope that you want to join me in that process of us taking on these big challenges and dreaming big dreams. And if you guys are willing to join me on this, then I guarantee you we're not just going to win this election, but we're going to transform the country. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, let's get to questions. Right in front. Go ahead.
I have a brother who is on cancer.
Take your time.
Sorry.
I know what this feels like.
And for him to be able to keep his insurance, he has to work. He has lymphoma and leukemia in the stage 3. But the thing I'm more concerned about is I don't think it's fair that my brother has to work when he's dying of cancer. Just keep his insurance.
Well, first of all, we're all praying for your brother. Oh, no. Listen, as I told you, I've been through this. My mother died of cancer. My grandfather died of cancer. And, you know, it's painful. And so just, the main thing I want you to know is, we're all praying for you and thinking about you. Because I'll bet there's not a person here who hasn't been touched by something like that and knows what that feels like. Now, the fact that your brother is still having to work to keep his insurance, is typical of a healthcare system that is tied to employment and it's just broken. And one of the things that I want to make sure of is that he is provided with health care whether or not he's working or not. Every other advanced nation in the world, Germany, Japan, England, France, they all provide health care to all their citizens. And we're wealthier than they are, and we actually spend more on health care than these other nations. We spend per person twice as much as Germany or Canada spend on health care when you average it out. But the problem is we don't spend it wisely and we don't spend it fairly. So that's why I put forward a proposal that would say every single American has a right to basic health care. If they don't have it, then they can buy into a system just like the one that I have. You can't discriminate on the basis of pre-existing conditions. You'll still have your choice of doctors. You will make and we will actually make the system more efficient and cheaper because we'll put more money into prevention and more money into managing people who are chronically ill. That will all save money. We can save $200 billion, $150, $200 billion a year easily if we just make the system more rational. But as I said before, in order for this to happen, in order for people like your brother to get the kinds of support that they need, we've got to build a movement for change. It's not just going to happen because you elect a Democrat. You have to get a Democrat elected in order for it to But you can't stop there. You've got to keep on going. And we've got to get a Congress that is going to be held accountable for actually finally delivering on health care. And that's something that I'm committed to doing as President of the United States. But tell your mother that we're thinking of it. Maybe I'll write a note before you leave today. All right, this gentleman right here. Hold on, you got a microphone. That way everybody can hear you.
You say that you're going to change the way the lobbyists work in Washington. But how are you going to take away the money from the politicians that the lobbyists pass out?
Well, a couple of ways. Because I've got a track record on this. Number one, I believe that we should have public financing in campaigns. And I think it is something that is long overdue. You know, when you bring this up, a lot of folks, particularly on the Republican side, will sometimes say, oh, you just want welfare for politicians. And I try to explain to them, listen, either we, the taxpayers, are making our democracy work, or else the lobbyists are paying for our democracy, and they're getting what they pay for. And I just think that we've got to invest in making sure that the system works more sensibly. And listen, I'm not somebody who's above all this. I have to raise money for this presidential campaign. Now, I'm proud of the fact that I don't take federal lobbyists, registered lobbyist money, and I don't take PAC money. And I've raised more money from people. I've raised more donations of $200 or less than all the other Democratic candidates combined. All of them combined. So we're getting $5 checks and $10 checks and $20 checks. But look, the fact is, when you're raising as much money as I have to raise for this presidential campaign, there's no doubt that I'm getting a lot of money from rich people. And, you know, probably more wealthy people are giving to presidential campaigns than non-wealthy people. And that skews, that tilts the playing field. So I think we should have public finance campaigns. In the meantime, as I said, have passed legislation. I am the only major presidential candidate who's actually passed ethics reform legislation that really is meaningful. You know, I worked with Russ Feingold last year. The reason you know who's bundling money for who is because we passed a law that let you know, which would shine a spotlight on how lobbyists are operating. We banned giving gifts from lobbyists, and corporate jets from lobbyists, and meals from lobbyists, and golf trips from lobbyists. We banned all that last year, and I was the point person for Democrats in getting that passed. So I just want to make sure that people don't believe that somehow we can't change the system. It can be changed, but you've got to have somebody in the White House who's going to be committed to making it happen. You have a mic on your mind. Right.
Hi, my husband is walking the picket line as we speak right now against Cargill and Cedar Rapids because they want to get rid of jobs and bring in non-union workers and pay them a low price. What do you think of that?
I don't like it.
Thank you.
And that's the reason why we've got to have a Department of Labor that is actually looking at the working people. I mean, we've had the most anti-union administration in a very long time. And they consistently make it harder for working people to organize. You know, if companies decide not to bargain in good faith, the companies will string along. If workers are trying to get organized, companies will engage in unfair practices that make it tougher for people to organize. If we don't have a Department of Labor that believes in labor, you might as well call it the Department of Management. But it's called the Department of Labor because it's supposed to be looking out for working people. And as President of the United States, I have a strong record of standing side by side with labor. I've walked picket lines myself, and I'll do it again. Because I think it is important to understand that unions give people the ability to organize together so that they can get a little bit more out of all the profits that are being made. And it's not as if companies aren't profitable.